She stood perfectly still. But why was the most dangerous man in the room suddenly unsure? The air inside the Coronado kill house tasted like dust and tension. Kira Blackwood didn't blink. The bullet had passed her head close enough that she felt the heat of it, close enough that her brain had already calculated the angle, the intent, the truth. This wasn't a mistake. Around her, 6 SEALs formed a loose semicircle, weapons raised, faces hard. The February light sliced through the plywood gaps, stripping the room in pale gold. Lieutenant Commander Rex Donovan watched her like a man measuring distance to a target. "Fight back, SEAL," he said. The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. Inside her chest, something old stirred, not fear, not exactly. Something colder, something inherited. Ignored. Tested. Hunted. But she didn't reach for her rifle. She smiled. It was small, calm, almost gentle. And for just a fraction of a second, the room shifted. Because Kira Blackwood wasn't surprised. Not really. She had been waiting for the moment someone would stop pretending. What none of them knew, what Donovan definitely didn't know, was that she had seen this coming 3 months ago. The morning of her graduation had been bright enough to hurt the eyes. San Diego sunlight turned the Pacific into hammered silver. Families filled the stands. Cameras clicked non-stop. History in the making. Kira stood on the grinder at Coronado, dress uniform perfect, posture straight, the gold trident freshly pinned above her heart. First woman to make it through. Class 384 had started with 87 candidates. Only 12 finished. She was the only woman left standing after Hell Week. 5.5 days of cold water, sand, sleep deprivation, and instructors who specialized in breaking people. 250 candidates had rung the bell. She never touched it. But as the Rear Admiral talked about progress and barriers and the future of the teams, Kira wasn't listening. She was watching the active duty operators in the crowd. Because speeches were cheap, eyes told the truth. Some looked curious. Some looked neutral. A few looked openly irritated. And one man, tall, broad, silver just touching his temples, looked at her like she was a structural weakness in a bridge he had to cross. Lieutenant Commander Rex Donovan. Even then, something in her stomach had tightened. Ignored, her mind whispered. Measured. Not welcomed. When her turn came, she rang the bell 3 times. The sound carried across the base. Clear. Sharp. Final. I belong here. But the silence from parts of the crowd said otherwise. Later, she escaped the celebration. No cameras. No speeches. Just the beach and the steady rhythm of waves. She pulled the compass from her pocket. Old brass. Edges worn smooth. Her mother. The lid clicked open. The needle settled on true north. And inside the cover, in small, precise handwriting. When they mock you, smile. When they attack you, win. Kira exhaled slowly. She didn't remember much about her mother. Vivian Blackwood. Military intelligence. Dead in a parachute accident when Kira was 6. That was the official story. Her grandmother never believed it. Kira hadn't known what to believe. Until, your mother would have been proud. The voice came from behind her. Gravel and memory. She turned. Colonel Thaddeus Merrick stood 10 feet away, civilian clothes, but nothing about him looked civilian. Scars told their own stories. So did his eyes. Something inside Kira went very still. Because soldiers developed instincts the hard way. And every instinct she had just whispered the same thing. This man knows something. What do you know about your mother's work? The question surprised even her. Merrick studied her for a long moment, then looked out at the ocean. More than you were ever told. The wind shifted, cold along the back of her neck. The record says training accident, she pressed. A long pause. Then quietly, that's not what happened. Her heartbeat changed. Not faster. Sharper. Can you tell me what really happened? Not yet. He handed her a business card. Heavy stock. No name. Just a number. Your mother made me promise something, Merrick said softly. If you ever followed her path, I'd help you find the truth. A wave crashed harder against the shore. Kira's fingers tightened around the card. She knew, Kira asked quietly. Merrick's expression darkened. She knew the kind of enemies she'd made. Don't forget. The words lingered. Heavy. Unfinished. Then he added the sentence that would echo in Kira's mind for months. Your mother had a technique, he said, something that made her legendary. Kira's eyes narrowed. What technique? Merrick's scarred face almost smiled. She always smiled, right before she struck. 6 weeks into SEAL Team 9, the pressure became personal. The sabotage started small. Subtle. Almost deniable. Sand in her regulator. Twisted parachute lines. Loose climbing harness bolts. Each one could have killed her. Each one didn't. Because Kira checked everything. Twice. Sometimes 3 times. Still, the message was clear. You don't belong. Brennan didn't hide his opinion. Hay stayed professionally distant. Sullivan remained neutral. Rohr watched her like an unsolved equation. Clove simply observed. But Donovan pushed. Harder runs. Harder drills. Harder positions. Like he was trying to find the exact point where she would crack. She didn't. But inside, the pressure built. Not fear. Not quite anger. Something heavier. Something that remembered being 6 years old at a funeral where no one would explain why her mother wasn't coming home. Which is why, when Donovan raised a weapon inside the kill house, Kira already knew. This wasn't just about her. This was history repeating. And history was personal. 48 hours later, NCIS called it an accident. Clerical error. Mixed ammunition. Case closed. Kira sat in the Master Chief's office and listened. Face calm. Hands still. Inside, nothing about it felt accidental. That night, alone in her apartment, she stared at Merrick's card for a long time. Then she dialed. He answered on the second ring. I've been expecting this call, he said. Silence filled the line. Then Kira asked the question that changed everything. Someone tried to kill my mother the same way, didn't they? A pause. Heavy. Yes. Her throat tightened, not with fear. With clarity. Who? Meet me tomorrow, Merrick said, and come alone. The line went dead. Kira sat in the dark for a long time after that. Not scared. Not shaken. Just certain. Because deep in her bones, something was finally clicking into place. The smile. The tests. The accidents. The hostility. Someone wasn't just trying to push her out of the teams. Someone was waiting for the right moment to finish what they started 30 years ago. And the most dangerous part, they thought she hadn't figured it out yet. But the next morning would begin the real hunt. And before it was over, SEAL Team 9 would learn something the hard way. Kira Blackwood didn't smile because she was calm. She smiled because she already knew how this fight would end. And sometimes, the most dangerous soldier in the room is the one who doesn't need to raise her voice. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply waits. Why did the man who ordered the assault look less certain than the woman he was trying to save? The coffee shop on Orange Avenue was almost empty when Kira walked in. Morning light filtered through wide windows, civilian noise, cups clinking, soft music, the kind of normalcy that felt unreal after gunfire. Colonel Thaddeus Merrick sat in the corner, back to the wall. Always back to the wall. He didn't stand when she approached. He just studied her face. "You look like her," he said quietly. Kira slid into the seat across from him. "You said someone tried to kill my mother the same way." Merrick nodded once. Training accident, equipment malfunction, neat paperwork, closed case. Not an accident. No. The word landed heavy between them. Kira felt it in her chest, that old ache she had carried since childhood without understanding it. Broken. That was the word she never used out loud. Broken by a story that never made sense. "Tell me," she said. Merrick reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn folder. The edges were soft from years of handling. He opened it carefully. Photographs slid into view. Black and white, grainy, classified. A younger woman stared back at Kira from across decades. Vivian Blackwood. But not the mother from faded family albums. This woman wore tactical gear, held an AK-47 like she knew it intimately, stood in front of helicopters and jungle outposts. Her eyes were sharp. Alive. "Operation Ghost Veil," Merrick said quietly. "Honduras, 1987. Kira leaned forward. The world narrowed to the images. "Your mother infiltrated a Soviet arms network," he continued. "Deep cover, 6 months inside." Kira swallowed. "Alone." "Yes." The word hit differently. Alone. She understood that word now. She was supposed to eliminate the target at the end of the mission, Merrick said. Standard protocol, clean exit, no witnesses. Did she? Merrick looked up. No. A flicker of something moved through Kira's chest. Pride. Fear. Recognition. She refused, Merrick said. Said the man wasn't a monster. Said he was just another soldier shaped by politics. And that got her killed. Eventually. The cafe noise faded in Kira's ears. She embarrassed powerful people, Merrick continued. Exposed illegal operations, made enemies inside her own government. And they waited. Yes. Until it looked like an accident. Yes. Silence. The weight of 37 years pressed against her ribs. Who ordered it, she asked. Merrick exhaled slowly, her handler code name Ironside. The name meant nothing. Not yet. But it would. And now, Kira asked. Merrick pulled out another document, newer paper, fresh ink. This came across my desk 48 hours ago. Kira read. Gregor Vyulov. Honduras. Encryption device. Stolen U.S. military codes. Her pulse shifted. Vyulov, she murmured, the same target from 1987. The same man your mother refused to kill. Still alive. Dying, Merrick corrected, but active. Kira looked up. You want me to go? Merrick held her gaze. The CIA wants a female operative, someone he might trust, someone who reminds him of her. The implication hung there. Soft. Terrible. They've been watching you since Bud S., Merrick added, waiting to see if you inherited her instincts. Kira leaned back. The cafe suddenly felt too small. You're offering me my mother's unfinished mission. I'm offering you a choice. A choice. The word felt heavier than it should. If I refuse, you go back to Team 9, keep wondering who tried to kill you. Her jaw tightened. Ignored. Targeted. Tested. She thought about the bullet in the kill house. The way Donovan's eyes had looked. Cold. Final. This mission isn't just about encryption codes, Merrick said. It's about understanding who wanted her dead, and why someone wants you dead now. Kira's fingers brushed the compass in her pocket. When do I leave? 72 hours. Her heart didn't race. It steadied. Determined. Who's QRF, she asked. Merrick hesitated a fraction too long. SEAL Team 9. The name hit like a quiet explosion. Donovan's team. Yes. Kira nodded slowly. Good. Merrick's eyes sharpened. Good. Sometimes, she said, the best way to find your enemy is to keep them close. A faint smile tugged at Merrick's scarred face. You are your mother's daughter. The classified briefing room felt colder than it should have. No windows. No distractions. SEAL Team 9 sat around the table. Donovan stood at the head. When Kira entered, conversation stopped. Deputy Director Harlow from the CIA clicked the remote. Satellite images lit the wall. Honduras, she began. High-value target, Gregor Vyulov. Possession of stolen U.S. encryption codes. Murmurs. Professional. Focused. Then Harlow said, primary infiltration will be conducted by Lieutenant Blackwood. Silence. Brennan let out a short, humorless laugh. You're sending her in alone, he said. She's qualified, Harlow replied. Donovan's voice cut in, calm but sharp. She's been on my team 2 months. She meets the criteria. Criteria. Like she was an algorithm. Kira felt the room shift toward her. Judging. Weighing. Waiting for her to hesitate. I accept, she said. Donovan's jaw tightened. You don't have to. I know. The air between them sharpened. Harlow dismissed the others for planning prep. When the room cleared, Donovan stayed. So, he said quietly, you're volunteering to walk into a jungle controlled by a man with 200 armed guards. Yes. You trust the CIA? No. He almost smiled. You think this is about encryption codes? No. The answer surprised him. He studied her longer this time. Then what do you think it's about? Kira stepped closer to the table, lowered her voice. I think someone wants me in that jungle. The silence stretched. Donovan didn't deny it. Instead, he said something she didn't expect. My father worked with your mother. Her breath stilled. Colonel Jack Donovan, he continued, Army Intelligence, code name Ironside. The name hit like a delayed blast wave. Ironside. Her mother's handler. You're telling me, she said slowly, your father was the man who ordered her to kill Vyulov. Yes. And when she refused, Donovan's eyes hardened. He didn't order her death. But someone did. Yes. The truth hovered there. Unspoken. Heavy. My father spent 10 years trying to uncover who killed her, Donovan said quietly. It destroyed him. Kira searched his face for deception. Found none. I've been carrying his files for 14 years, he added, waiting for someone who cared enough to finish it. He slid a folder across the table. Kira opened it. Names. Connections. Financial trails. A network. Corrupt officials, contractors, intelligence officers. A web that hadn't died with one man. You think this mission is a setup, she said. I think if someone wants you dead, Donovan replied. A jungle compound is convenient. He stepped back. When you're in there, he added quietly, remember something. Your mother didn't win by force. The smile, Kira said. Yes. His eyes held hers. Use it. The C-130 transport roared through dark skies 6 hours later. Canvas seats, red lighting, the smell of fuel and steel. Team 9 sat in silence. Kira reviewed the mission file for the 100th time. Cover story. Access points. Escape routes. Across from her, Clove watched quietly. You speak Russian, he asked softly over the engine noise. Enough. He will test you. I know. Clove reached into his vest and handed her a small, worn book. Pushkin. Quote him, Clove said. Make Vyulov remember who he used to be. She took it. Why are you helping me? She asked. Clove held her gaze. Because sometimes being right isn't enough, he said, and I don't want history to repeat itself. Her throat tightened slightly. Hope. It surprised her. Small, fragile. But there. The jungle swallowed them after midnight. Humidity thick as breath. Insects screamed from the trees. They moved 5 miles out from the compound. Staging point. Kira changed into civilian clothes. Jeans. T-shirt. Leather jacket despite the heat. No visible weapons. Just a micro earpiece. A tracker under her skin. And 2 compasses in her pocket. Merrick approached one last time. If you need immediate extraction, say, the weather is changing. She nodded. And Kira, he added softly, if you find the truth, remember, revenge is easy, justice is hard. She didn't answer. She stepped into the jungle alone. Every sound amplified. Every step deliberate. The compound appeared like a relic from another era. Concrete walls. Guard towers. Hammer and sickle faded above the main building. The gates opened. Men watched her with suspicion. She was escorted inside. Then she saw him. Gregor Vyulov. Older. Thinner. But his eyes were still sharp. He studied her for a long time. You remind me of someone, he said in Russian. Kira let the silence stretch. Then she smiled. The ghost smile. People say I look like my mother, she replied softly. And in that moment, she saw something change in his face. Recognition. Regret. And something deeper. Because she had just stepped into the past. And somewhere beyond the jungle walls, someone was already moving pieces on a board she hadn't fully seen yet. The mission had begun. But the real question wasn't whether she would survive the compound. It was whether she could survive the truth waiting inside it. And sometimes, the most dangerous battlefield isn't made of concrete and gunfire. It's made of history and unfinished promises. Why did the old enemy lower his weapon the moment she smiled? Gregor Vyulov did not look like the monster from the files. That was the first thing Kira noticed. He was thinner than expected, older, the sharp edges of his face softened by time and illness, but his eyes were still dangerous, still searching, still very, very aware. He dismissed the guards with a slow wave of his hand. That alone told her something. He wasn't afraid of her. Or he thought he shouldn't be. The heavy door shut behind them with a hollow metallic thud. Kira stood still, hands visible, shoulders relaxed, heart steady but not calm. Not calm at all. Because something felt wrong. Not the room. Not the guards. Him. Vyulov studied her like a man staring at a ghost. You have her eyes, he said quietly in Russian. Kira let the silence breathe before answering. That's what everyone says. Inside, though, something tightened. Ignored. That old familiar feeling. All her life, people had seen her mother when they looked at her. Not Kira, never just Kira. Vyulov slowly circled the table, his movements careful, measured, like someone whose body no longer obeyed as quickly as his mind. Vivian Blackwood, he murmured. I wondered if history would send me her daughter one day. Kira kept her expression neutral. You sound disappointed. A faint smile tugged at his mouth. No, he said softly, only tired. That wasn't in the profile. Kira's instincts sharpened. Because monsters rarely sounded tired. They told me you stole something, she said evenly. Vyulov chuckled a dry, almost fragile sound. They told you many things. He stepped closer. Too close. Her pulse remained steady, but every nerve in her body mapped exits, angles, threats. Old habit. Survival habit. You came alone, he asked. Yes. A lie wrapped in truth. His eyes flicked briefly toward the ceiling. Toward the hidden surveillance cameras. Toward the listening ears she couldn't see. Then he did something unexpected. He leaned closer and whispered. They are already inside your team. Kira didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't react. But inside, everything shifted. Slow. Cold. Dangerous. What makes you say that? She asked calmly. Vyulov's gaze held hers. Because, he said quietly, this feels exactly like 1987. The words landed like a pressure wave. Her fingers brushed lightly against the compass in her pocket. Grounding. Centering. You're dying, she said carefully. You don't have time for games. His smile faded. For the first time, something like genuine weariness showed through. You think I stole your encryption codes, he said. Yes. You think I am your enemy. Yes. A long pause stretched between them. Then Vyulov did something no one in her briefing predicted. He turned his back on her. Completely exposed. Completely vulnerable. You should ask better questions, Lieutenant. Kira's pulse ticked once, sharp and warning. Because no paranoid war criminal turns his back unless he believes something very specific. Or very dangerous. Such as, she asked. Vyulov walked slowly to the window, overlooking the compound yard. Guards moved below. Rifles ready. Too many of them. You should ask, he said quietly, why your mother let me live. The room went very still. Kira felt it in her chest. That old wound. Still open. Still unanswered. She thought you weren't worth killing, Kira replied. But even as she said it, she wasn't sure she believed it. Vyulov turned slowly. And for the first time, there was something sharp in his eyes. Not fear. Not anger. Something closer to urgency. No, he said. And the word hit harder than it should have. No, he repeated quietly. Your mother didn't spare me because of mercy. He stepped closer again. Slow. Deliberate. She spared me, Vyulov said, voice low, because she discovered who Ironside was really working for. The air left Kira's lungs in a slow, controlled breath. Donovan's father. Ironside. Her mother's handler. The room suddenly felt smaller. You're lying, she said. But her voice wasn't as certain as she wanted it to be. Vyulov watched her carefully. Measuring. Waiting. Am I? He asked softly. Silence stretched tight between them. In her ear, the calm crackled faintly. Donovan's voice, low, controlled. We're reading elevated heat signatures inside the compound. Multiple movement patterns. Something's off. Kira didn't respond. Not yet, because her instincts were screaming. Something was coming. Vyulov saw it in her eyes. They are early this time, he murmured. Her gaze snapped back to him. What? He moved fast for an old man, grabbing a hidden remote and slamming it against the wall. The lights died instantly. Darkness swallowed the room. Outside, gunfire exploded. Sharp, sudden, too close. In her ear, Donovan's voice cut through the chaos. Contact, multiple hostiles, they're not Vyulov's men. Kira's heart slammed once hard, because now she understood. This wasn't an infiltration. It was a trap, and someone had just sprung it. Vyulov grabbed her arm, grip surprisingly strong. Now you understand, he said urgently. Another burst of gunfire ripped through the compound. Closer. Screams followed. Not controlled. Not tactical. This was an execution squad. Kira pulled free, instincts fully online now. Who are they? She demanded. Vyulov's face was pale in the emergency lighting. The same people who killed your mother. Cold flooded her veins. Not fear. Something sharper. Something older. In her calm, Donovan's voice again strained now. Blackwood, we've got unidentified operators breaching the outer wall. These guys are Tier 1 level. His voice cut off in a burst of static. For the first time since this mission began, Kira felt something close to real fear. Not for herself. For her team. Broken. That old fracture in her chest widened again. Because history wasn't just repeating. It was accelerating. Outside, boots pounded down the hallway. Vast. Disciplined. Professional. Not Vyulov's guards. Hunters. Kira's eyes met Vyulov. One silent understanding passed between them. Whatever he was, whatever secrets he carried, if those operators reached this room, everyone inside was dead. Her breathing slowed, centered, focused. She rolled her shoulders once. Soft, controlled. Then very slowly, Kira Blackwood smiled. And somewhere deep in the chaos outside, the hunt began to change direction. Why did her pulse finally steady when everything around her was collapsing? The boots in the hallway were closing fast. Not panicked. Not sloppy. Professional. Kira could hear it in the rhythm, controlled spacing, disciplined movement, weapons ready before corners. Whoever was coming wasn't here to negotiate. They were here to erase. She inhaled slowly through her nose. One breath in. One breath out. And just like that, the noise in her head went quiet. Not because the danger was gone. Because it was finally clear. Vyulov watched her carefully in the emergency lighting. His breathing was shallow now, illness catching up to him, but his eyes remained sharp. You hear it too, he said quietly. Kira didn't answer. She was already moving. Her hand swept the room in seconds, mapping exits, distances, blind spots. No panic, just clean, practiced awareness. Ignored. That was the emotion that flickered briefly through her chest. All those years. All those rooms where people had underestimated her. It had taught her something valuable. Stillness under pressure. She reached into her jacket slowly and pulled the compact suppressed pistol from the hidden holster along her spine. Vyulov's eyebrow lifted slightly. You came prepared after all. Always, she said softly. In her ear, the calm hissed back to life. Donovan's voice, tight but controlled. Blackwood were pinned near the south wall. These operators are running coordinated sweeps. This isn't a grab team, it's a purge. A purge. The word settled heavily. Kira's jaw tightened. How many? She whispered. Minimum 12 inside the perimeter, possibly more outside. 12. Highly trained. Inside tight corridors. Her mind moved fast. Not calculating heroics. Calculating survival. Calculating angles. Calculating time. Because something still didn't add up. If this was about Vyulov, why hit the compound while she was inside? Unless they expected me here, she murmured. Vyulov nodded grimly. Yes. The hallway footsteps stopped. Right outside the door. Silence fell. Thick. Dangerous. Kira's pulse slowed further. This was the moment most people feared. The moment before violence. But for her, this was where the world made sense. She glanced once at Vyulov. You can walk. Not fast. Then stay behind me. A faint ghost of a smile touched the old man's face. Your mother said the same thing once. Something sharp moved through Kira's chest. Pride. And something more fragile. Hope. The door handle turned slowly. Carefully. Professionally. Kira shifted her stance, not aggressive, not obvious, just enough to give her the angle she needed. The door opened 3 inches. That was all the warning she got. Her first shot was already moving. Soft. Precise. The suppressed round struck the lead operator high in the shoulder, not center mass. Intentional. He dropped with a grunt, weapon clattering. Confusion erupted instantly in the hallway. Contact. Kira moved. Vast. Fluid. Not rushing. Never rushing. She pivoted through the doorway, using the falling body as partial cover. Second shot, low thigh of the next operator. Mobility kill. Third shot, light fixture above them. Darkness flooded the corridor. Controlled chaos. Exactly where she wanted it. In her ear, Donovan's voice cut in, sharp with surprise. Blackwood, what did you just do? She didn't answer, because the hallway had gone very, very quiet. Then, retreating footsteps. Vast. Disciplined. They were pulling back. That was wrong. Highly trained operators don't spook easily. Vyulov stepped carefully into the doorway behind her, breathing harder now. They're repositioning, he said. I know. Kira's eyes scanned the corridor. Something still felt off. Too clean. Too fast. Then she saw it. A small blinking device attached under the fallen operator's vest. Her stomach dropped. Move, she snapped. She grabbed Vyulov and shoved him hard down the adjacent hallway just as the concussion charge detonated. The blast slammed into her back like a hammer made of air and dust. Not lethal, but meant to disorient, to flush, to herd. Kira hit the floor hard, ears ringing, vision flashing white for half a second. Broken. That old fracture in her chest flickered again. Because now she understood the pattern. They're not trying to kill us fast, she rasped into the calm. Donovan's breathing was heavy on the other end. Then what the hell are they doing? Kira pushed herself up slowly, ignoring the dull ache along her shoulder. They're steering us. Silence. Then Donovan swore under his breath. Toward what? Kira's gaze tracked down the long hallway ahead. Emergency lights flickered. At the far end, a heavy reinforced door stood slightly open. Waiting. Her pulse didn't spike. It settled deeper. Because traps only worked if you didn't see them coming. Behind her, Vyulov's voice came quieter now. They want us in the archive room. Kira turned slightly. Why? Vyulov hesitated. for the first time since she met him. The old man looked afraid. Because that's where your mother learned the truth. The words landed heavy. History. Repeating again. But faster. More violent. In her ear, Donovan spoke again, lower this time. Blackwood, I'm pushing toward your position, but listen to me carefully. She waited. Static crackled. Then, there's a second team moving outside the compound perimeter, unmarked, no transponders. Kira's grip tightened slightly on her weapon. How many? Unknown. Of course. It was never simple. She exhaled slowly, then stepped forward, toward the half-open door. Determined. Because some answers you only find by walking straight into the dark. Behind her, Vyulov followed carefully. And somewhere beyond the jungle, someone was still moving pieces on the board. Still watching. Still waiting. But they were about to learn something her mother's enemies had learned too late. Sometimes the quiet ones don't break under pressure. Sometimes they adapt. Why did the door feel heavier than the gun in her hand? The reinforced archive door stood half open, as if inviting her in. Not forced. Not breached. Opened. Waiting. Kira paused just long enough to listen. No footsteps. No whispered commands. Just the distant echo of gunfire outside and the slow hum of emergency power kicking in. Too quiet. That silence wasn't accidental. It was staged. Behind her, Vyulov's breathing had grown uneven. Each inhale cost him more now. Sweat clung to his temples. This is where she found it, he said faintly. Found what? Kira asked without turning. The ledger. Her pulse shifted slightly. What ledger? Vyulov swallowed. The one that proved Ironside wasn't working for Washington anymore. The words slid into her like ice. Donovan's father. Ironside. The man who had spent years searching for answers. Or pretending to. In her ear, Donovan's voice cut through the static again. Blackwood, my team split. Brennan's hit. Non-fatal, but we're pinned near the west corridor. I need to know your status. She stared at the door. We're about to step into something bigger than encryption codes, she said quietly. A beat of silence on the other end. Then Donovan's voice softened just a fraction. I had a feeling. Kira pushed the door open fully. The archive room was larger than expected. Concrete walls lined with old steel cabinets, dusty shelves, a long wooden table at the center. But what drew her eyes immediately wasn't the furniture. It was the lights. Soft overhead fixtures were already on. Someone had powered them deliberately. And at the center of the table, a single black folder sat waiting. Too deliberate. Too neat. Vyulov stopped a few feet behind her. They want you to see it, he whispered. Kira stepped closer to the table slowly. Every instinct in her body screamed trap. Explosive. Sniper angle. Gas. But she saw none of it. Only paper. Only history. She reached out and opened the folder. Inside were photographs. Documents. Financial transfers. Operation authorizations. And one familiar name repeated again and again. Ironside. But beneath it in smaller print, another title appeared. Private Contractor Liaison. Her chest tightened. This wasn't a government operation, she murmured. Vyulov shook his head weakly. No. Her fingers turned another page. Accounts traced to shell companies. Weapons contracts routed through offshore accounts. Authorized assassinations labeled as counterterrorism. Then she saw it. A final document. Operation Clean Sweep. Target Vivian Blackwood. Authorization Ironside. The room tilted slightly. Not from shock. From something quieter. Broken. Because the man Donovan believed had tried to uncover her mother's killers. Had signed the order himself. In her ear, Donovan's voice came again. "Talk to me, Blackwood." She swallowed once. "Your father authorized Operation Clean Sweep." Silence. Long. Heavy. Then, "That's not possible." Her eyes stayed on the paper. "It's his signature." More silence. Then a faint crack in his voice. "No, he wouldn't." Kira felt something twist inside her. Because she understood that tone. The sound of something sacred breaking. She closed her eyes briefly. Ignored. Betrayed. Used. Emotions she knew too well. But this wasn't about her pain alone. It was about truth. And truth rarely arrived gently. Vyulov stepped closer, placing one frail hand on the table for balance. "Your mother found those documents in this very room," he said quietly. "She realized she had been sent to eliminate me, not because I was a threat." "Then why?" Kira whispered. Vyulov met her eyes. "Because I refused to sell control of my network to Ironside's private backers." The pieces clicked together slowly. Not Cold War ideology. Not patriotism. Money. Power. Control. Her mother had discovered the shift. Discovered that the war she believed in had been sold. And she refused to be part of it. "So they erased her," Kira said softly. "Yes." Gunfire cracked closer down the hallway again. Closer. More aggressive. The operators were advancing. Not retreating this time. In her ear, Donovan's breathing grew heavier. "They're collapsing toward your position. We've got at least 8 converging on the archive wing." Kira snapped back to the present. History could wait. Survival could not. She quickly scanned the room. No windows. One main entrance. 2 narrow maintenance corridors along the rear wall. Vyulov was swaying slightly now. "You don't have much time," he said. She studied him. This man. The supposed villain. Now reduced to a witness. "Why keep the ledger?" she asked. Vyulov gave a tired half-smile. "Insurance." "Against who?" "Everyone." Bootsteps thundered outside the archive door. Close. Stacked formation. She could hear the controlled breathing through tactical masks. In her ear, Donovan's voice was sharp again. "Blackwood, we're seconds out, but they're going to breach before we reach you." She nodded once, even though he couldn't see it. Determined. Not reckless. Just clear. She grabbed the black folder and slid it inside her jacket. Then she turned to Vyulov. "You can still walk." "Barely." "Good." A small, ironic laugh escaped him. "You are very much her daughter." Kira moved to the maintenance corridor and pushed it open. Narrow. Tight. Concrete walls. "Go," she instructed. Vyulov started forward. Then paused. "There is one more thing," he said. She looked back. "Your mother didn't smile at me because she forgave me." The hallway lights flickered again. Bootsteps slammed against the archive door. Metal groaned. "Then why?" Kira asked. Vyulov's eyes held her steadily. She smiled because she knew the truth would survive longer than any of us. The archive door exploded inward. Flashbang light tore through the room. Kira pulled Vyulov hard into the corridor as the blast wave roared past them. Her ears rang again. Dust filled the air. Shouts echoed behind them. She didn't look back. Didn't hesitate. Because now the mission wasn't about encryption codes. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about something quieter, something heavier. Legacy. In her ear, Donovan's voice broke through the chaos. Blackwood, we're at the corridor junction. She turned the corner and froze, because standing at the far end of the narrow maintenance hall, weapon raised, face half hidden behind night vision goggles, was Brennan. But he wasn't aiming at the incoming operators. He was aiming at her. And in that suspended second before anything moved, she understood exactly why the second team had arrived without transponders. Because the betrayal was already inside their ranks. Why did she lower her weapon when every instinct screamed to fire? The corridor felt impossibly narrow. Concrete walls, dust still drifting from the blast. Gregor Vyulov leaning weakly against the side behind her. And Brennan, standing 20 feet away. Rifle steady. Breathing calm. Too calm. His night vision goggles reflected a dull green glow that made his eyes unreadable. But his posture said everything. Not confused. Not surprised. Resolved. Kira, he said evenly, step away from him. Her pulse didn't spike. It slowed. This was the moment. Not the gunfight in the archive room. Not the operators breaching the compound. This. The fractured line had finally surfaced. You weren't hit, she said quietly. He didn't answer. Because he didn't need to. Behind her, Vyulov's breathing rasped in short, shallow pulls. In her ear, Donovan's voice crackled faintly through interference. Blackwood, we lost Brennan's signal 2 minutes ago. Where is he? She didn't respond. Her eyes never left Brennan. Ignored. That's how he'd treated her from the beginning. The small jokes. The tight smiles. The glances exchanged when she spoke in briefings. She had dismissed it as ego. As habit. As the usual resistance to someone who didn't fit their image. But now she saw it differently. It wasn't dismissal. It was calculation. You were steering us, she said softly. Brennan's rifle didn't waver. You shouldn't have come down this hallway. That wasn't your decision to make. A faint, almost regretful smile touched his mouth. You were never supposed to survive the first breach, he replied. The words landed without theatrics. Just truth. And somehow that made them heavier. Behind her, Vyulov shifted weakly. Brennan's gaze flicked to him briefly. That old man has been living on borrowed time for 30 years, Brennan said. You don't have to die for him. Kira felt something stir inside her. Not anger. Not rage. Something steadier. You think this is about him? She asked. Brennan's eyes narrowed slightly. You don't understand the board, he said. You never did. There it was again. The quiet assumption. That she was behind. That she was emotional. That she didn't see the angles. Her grip on her pistol remained firm but lowered at her side. Deliberate. Measured. In her ear, Donovan's voice came sharper now. Blackwood, I'm at the junction. Static swallowed the rest. Brennan stepped forward one slow pace. Put the weapon down. Kira didn't move. Instead, she asked a question. Who do you answer to? A flicker passed across his face. Small, but real. You don't want that answer. Try me. Silence hung between them. The sounds of distant gunfire were fading now, meaning the external operators were either retreating or completing their objective. And that objective was here. Brennan exhaled once. Ironside's network didn't die with him, he said quietly. Her stomach tightened. So it was true. Donovan's father had built something that outlived him. "And you're part of it," she said. "I protect it," Brennan corrected. "From what?" "From exposure." His voice wasn't cruel. It wasn't manic. It was rational. Believing. "That ledger," he continued, nodding toward her jacket, "will destabilize operations across 3 continents. You think you're exposing corruption. What you're really doing is dismantling leverage." Kira felt the weight of the folder against her ribs. The truth her mother had died protecting. "You call that leverage," she said softly. "My mother called it betrayal." Brennan's jaw tightened. "Your mother was naive." The word sliced deeper than it should have. "Broken." That fracture opened again, not from pain this time. From clarity. "Was she?" Kira asked quietly. Brennan's finger shifted slightly against the trigger. "Last chance," he said. Behind her, Vilov whispered weakly, "He will shoot." Kira knew that. She had known it from the second she saw the angle of Brennan's stance. He wasn't hesitating. He was counting. Timing. Waiting for Donovan to round the corner so he could eliminate both problems at once. Her mind moved fast. Not frantic. Not emotional. Just precise. The corridor was narrow. Brennan had the clearer line. But he was focused entirely on her center mass. Because he believed she would defend. He believed she would raise her weapon. He believed she would meet force with force. He was wrong. Very slowly, Kira let her pistol slip from her fingers. It hit the concrete with a sharp metallic crack. Brennan blinked. Just once. Confusion, a microsecond of it. "Smart choice," he murmured. But she saw it. That tiny shift. That recalculation. And in that sliver of space, she moved. Not toward him. Not away. Down. Her hand shot to the small compass in her pocket and flung it hard against the overhead emergency light. Glass shattered. Darkness flooded the corridor. Simultaneously, she dropped low and drove forward, not at Brennan's chest but at his legs. The rifle discharged. The round tore through concrete above her shoulder. She felt the heat of it. Close. Too close. But momentum carried her through. She slammed into Brennan's knees, destabilizing him just enough. Not brute strength. Leverage. Precision. The rifle clattered sideways. They hit the floor hard. He was stronger. Heavier. But she was faster. She drove her elbow into his wrist, twisting sharply until the joint gave way with a sickening crack. The rifle slid further down the corridor. Brennan gasped more from shock than pain. "You don't get to decide who survives the truth," she whispered. He tried to reach for a secondary weapon. She caught his wrist mid-motion and pinned him hard against the concrete. Not rage. Control. Donovan rounded the corner at that exact second, weapon raised. He froze at the sight. Brennan beneath her. Alive. Disarmed. Breathing hard. "Stand down," Kira said calmly. Donovan hesitated. Processing. Then slowly lowered his rifle. Brennan stared up at her, something like disbelief in his eyes. "You had the shot," he rasped. "You dropped your weapon." "Yes." "Why?" Kira held his gaze steadily. "Because you expected me to fight your way." Sirens echoed faintly outside the compound now. Local forces closing in. The purge team retreating. The window had closed. Brennan's shoulders sagged slightly. For the first time, he looked small. Not dangerous. Not powerful. Just human. And flawed. Behind her, Vyulov slid down the wall, exhausted. Kira finally released Brennan's arm and stepped back. Donovan moved forward and secured him swiftly. Silence settled in the corridor again. Heavy, but different now. Kira leaned against the wall briefly, breath steadying. Proud. Not because she had won. Because she had chosen restraint. Donovan approached her slowly. "My father," he began. She shook her head gently. "This isn't about him anymore." He looked at her, searching for anger. For accusation. For blame. He found none. Only resolve. "We expose it," she said quietly, "all of it." He nodded once. Outside, dawn was beginning to press faint light through the jungle canopy. A new day rising over old ghosts. Vyulov looked up at her weakly. "Your mother would be proud," he murmured. Kira considered that. Maybe. Or maybe her mother had simply done what felt right in the moment. No theatrics. No speeches. Just choice. As medevac rotors thumped faintly in the distance, Kira stepped toward the compound exit. The ledger pressed against her ribs. History shifting. Not loudly. Not violently. But undeniably. Sometimes strength isn't in pulling the trigger. Sometimes it's in refusing to let someone else decide who you are. And sometimes, dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.